Please video like and subscribe this channel. Beginning, the end of Earth's silence. The sky above Earth had not been blue for weeks. It was a sickly crimson now, torn open by massive alien warships that floated like dark gods above the planet. Their hulls glowed with unfamiliar symbols, and their engines hummed with a sound that made the ground tremble. Cities burned beneath them. Oceans steamed where orbital strikes had boiled the water. Humanity's defenses, missiles, fleets, satellites had been erased in a matter of hours. The Zarkonian Dominion had arrived. They did not negotiate. They did not warn. They came to demonstrate power. At the center of the invasion stood Empress Velith, ruler of 1,000 conquered systems. To her people, she was eternal, an unchallenged sovereign whose armies had never known true defeat. Entire civilizations had knelt at the mere mention of her name. Now she watched Earth burn from her command platform, her eyes cold and calculating. "Humans," she said calmly, her voice echoing across the battlefield through translators and psychic relays. "Your resistance is inefficient. Surrender, and your species may be permitted to exist under Dominion rule." No response came, because there was no one left to answer. Except one man. Captain Elias Rourke stood among the ruins of what had once been a defense outpost. His armor was cracked. His helmet gone. Blood ran freely down his face, mixing with ash and dust. Around him lay the bodies of his squad, the last soldiers who had fought beside him. Earth Command was silent. Communications were dead. Humanity, as far as Elias could tell, was finished. Yet when Dominion soldiers surrounded him, weapons raised, Elias did not kneel. He allowed himself to be taken. Not as a prisoner begging for mercy, but as a witness. Middle, the arena of judgment. Elias was dragged across a vast alien platform constructed over the remains of a ruined city. Millions of Zarkonian soldiers stood in flawless formation, their armor gleaming under artificial suns. Above them hovered war drones and execution craft, ready to strike at the Empress's command. At the highest point of the platform stood Velith's throne, carved from black crystal and living metal. She rose as Elias was thrown to the ground before her. "This is the one who resisted capture," one commander said. "A human officer." Velith studied him with interest. Humans were weak compared to her kind, short-lived, fragile, emotionally driven. Yet this one had fought long after logic demanded surrender. "Stand," she ordered. Elias pushed himself up slowly, every muscle screaming in pain. He looked up at the Empress, meeting her gaze without fear. "You are alone," Velith said. "Your world is conquered. Why do you still resist?" Elias swallowed blood and answered quietly, "Because someone has to stand when everything else falls." Murmurs rippled through the alien ranks. Velith raised a hand, silencing them. "Very well," she said. "I will grant you an honor rarely given to conquered species." The ground beneath Elias shifted. Energy fields activated, forming a massive circular arena in the center of the platform. "You will face my army," the Empress continued. "Alone. If you survive, I will reconsider Earth's fate." Elias almost laughed. "One human against your entire army?" he asked. Velith's lips curved into a faint smile. "I expect this to be brief." The restraints around Elias dissolved. Weapons clattered onto the arena floor, alien blades, discarded rifles, broken armor. Above him, millions watched. The first wave charged. Elias moved on instinct. He grabbed a fallen weapon, firing until it overheated, then used it as a bludgeon. He slid beneath plasma bolts, rolled across the ground, and struck with ruthless efficiency. He fought not with strength, but with experience earned through endless battles humans had fought just to survive their own history. Aliens fell. 1. Then 5. Then dozens. The Zarkonian army slowed, confused. Humans were not supposed to last seconds in such combat. This one had lasted minutes. Elias adapted, using enemy shields, turning fallen armor into cover, exploiting hesitation. Each wound he suffered only fueled his resolve. He was not fighting to win. He was fighting to be remembered. High above, Empress Velith leaned forward. "This human," she murmured, "does not fight like prey." Hours seemed to pass, though it was only minutes. The arena was littered with alien bodies. Elias stood barely upright, breathing heavily, blood soaking into the ground beneath him. Finally, surrounded on all sides, he raised his voice. "Is this all your empire has?" he shouted. "An army that fears one man?" Silence followed. For the first time in centuries, the Zarkonian dominion hesitated. The turning point, a cracked crown. Velith stood abruptly. Enough. The battlefield froze. Soldiers halted mid-step, weapons lowering. Energy fields shimmered as time itself seemed to pause. The Empress descended from her throne, her presence radiating authority. She walked across the arena floor until she stood mere steps from Elias. "You are dying," she said calmly. "Your defiance changes nothing. Why do you persist?" Elias looked at her, his vision blurred, his body failing. Yet his voice was steady. "Because if I kneel," he said, "you'll believe we were never worth fearing." Something flickered behind Velith's eyes. Long ago, before conquest, before empire, her people had once stood alone against impossible odds. They, too, had refused to kneel. She straightened and turned toward her generals. "Withdraw all forces from Earth," she commanded. Shock rippled through the ranks. "Empress," a commander protested. "The planet is ours." Velith's voice hardened. "Earth is not conquered. It has been tested." She faced Elias once more. "Your species lacks the power to defeat us," she said. "But power is not the only force that shapes history." She extended her hand. "Live. Tell your people that the Dominion remembers courage." Elias collapsed before he could answer. But he smiled. Ending the birth of a legend. Earth survived. Scarred. Broken. Forever changed. The Zarkonian fleets vanished as suddenly as they had arrived, leaving behind ruins, questions, and a story that spread across the stars. Not of victory, not of conquest, but of one human who stood alone. Elias Rourke survived his wounds. He never returned to the battlefield. Instead, he became a symbol, proof that humanity's greatest weapon was not technology or numbers, but refusal. Across the galaxy, other empires took notice. And in the Dominion's deepest archives, a new record was etched. On the ruins of Earth, a single human reminded an empire why fear exists. On her throne, Empress Velith often stared into the void, haunted by a question she could not silence. What would happen if humans ever stopped standing alone?